So again, it's me. What I would like to talk about now is a little bit technical. Corporate and personal tax possibilities in Malta. A certain explanation would be definitely required because there is at least one concept, or in fact two, one for the corporate side and other is the individual, which needs an explanation. So if it seems a little bit boring, please listen to it, listen through it, because you would, as soon as you understand it, you would understand the concept and also the advantages which that provides to anyone who wants a company in Malta, who wants to operate from Malta, and who wants to get residency or citizenship. And it is very, very hard to put onto slides, so I took the trouble of not preparing the slides for that, and I would try to be still on the same time as clear as possible. Let's talk about the personal income tax or personal taxation possibilities Malta, or the system what Malta uses, could offer. And it needs fairly extensive history and economic background information, which is, I think we could start like 200 years ago, where the UK, who had huge number of colonies abroad, sent lots of British or English to those colonies to work and to serve. And those people, even though they might have spent 10 years, 15, 20 years there, they usually wanted to return to the United Kingdom, to live before they die, and to spend their remaining life there. That is a concept which is not really well used in other countries of the world. And based on that distinction, the UK has a definition which is called domicile. And I was talking to the gentlemen who are translating us, and they said, I advised them to use the word domicile because there is no proper translation of domicile to any other language. Domicile is a place where you would like to return to die. That is your final destination. This is what in your heart is the most important place in the world. Not where you were born, because that is accident. Maybe you were a son of a governor in India, coming from the UK where you were born. So the fact that you were born in India doesn't count. But you want to return to the United Kingdom finally, to live your remaining life there, is very important. So if somebody, and we have to make a distinction, and then we will get to the text point. There is citizenship, which is clear. There is residency, which can be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And there is domicile in the United Kingdom, which means that even though you might be living abroad, the UK would be the place to return and to die. Why it is important? Because it sounds a little bit strange, or why this has any relevance. After the Second World War, where especially the US Army, US Navy, had huge number of vessels where they shipped the military goods to Europe, and they were sold for scrap. Greek big shipping magnates bought up those fleets. And at that time, as you probably know, 47, 48, Greece has had big political problems. So the Greek ship owners started to look for a place of where to move their activities, business activities, and also their life and their family. And one clever lawyer has found that the UK has this non-domiciled rule, which meant that, and I try to, again, if something is not understandable, then please lift your hand so that I can maybe explain it in a different way. The rule says that if you are a resident but non-domiciled in the United Kingdom, then you are taxed only in the United Kingdom, taxes your income only what you bring to the United Kingdom. So, and that is important, and we would get to the point why Malta is there and why it's important. So you could structure your things. You rent a flat or you buy a flat in London. You have a staff working for you. You spend a certain amount of money in the United Kingdom, but you have a much higher income accruing outside of the United Kingdom because you have international activities, you have international companies, you have international businesses, and if you do not send the money to the United Kingdom, then all that income coming from those outside foreign activities will not be taxable in the United Kingdom. only what you spend there. So if you have a good financial advisor or tax advisor, you could plan before you move to the UK, you divide your assets, you divide your money, your capital into two parts. One which remains outside of the United Kingdom. You are not spending money from there in the UK, not even with a credit card. And there is another part which covers your UK costs. And the tax savings can be huge. Think about it. You earn like 100 million pounds sterling all over the world. Instead of paying full tax on 100 million pounds sterling, your costs in the UK are, let's say, 10 million because you have a big flat, you have a big stuff, you have university cost to cover and so on and so on. You spend only 10 million from the 100 million income or profits in the UK, so you are taxable only on the 10 million. Which means that your actual tax liabilities on the whole income is like 3% or 3.5%, which is very low. So that was an important consideration. No wonder that the rich Arab sheikhs, then the Russian magnates, and all other rich people moved to London, and one consideration was the legal system, the stability of the legal system, and also the worldwide taxation or non-taxation of money outside of the United Kingdom. Was that clear enough to continue? Okay. Why is it interesting? Because Malta basically has the same kind of tax system. And therefore, because that is based in the UK model, obviously, because that was where it, I think really 220 years ago they drafted such a law. So Malta has the same system, which means that if you get residency via the residency and visa program or the global residence program or other means, and if you structure your money well, then you keep your money, the majority of your money, majority of your funds outside of Malta. And obviously the Maltese government would be happy that you bring all the money inside and you invest and you do things. But some people says that, okay, I want a liability in this country, but I want to keep my money outside because this is how I feel safer. So if you have this distinction and you are careful enough and you do proper planning, then your tax liabilities would go down considerably, even if you have a worldwide high income. So that is one big possibility the Maltese personal income tax system is offering to the people who get residency or citizenship. What needs to be proven if the question comes up that why you didn't pay money or tax on the money which you earned, then you have to prove to the tax authorities, on the other hand, that yes, you are resident in Malta, which is fair. You could be a resident for 15 years, but there is a place where you would like to return to die. So it is strange as an advice, like a tax advisor, is to say that keep your burial plot back at home, wherever it is. Get the documentation for that it's paid for in advance. And whenever such a tax question comes up, at least you could give a confirmation to the tax authorities that this is your plan. I love Malta, I love the country, maybe I would stay another 10 or 15 years. Maybe I would stay here, but by my heart, well, you know, my parents died there, I would like to be buried next to them, so you understand. And then, basically, the tax savings are there. Sounds a little bit funny, but then interpretations of old rules and old habits sometimes create this kind of possibilities, let's put it this way, because I think this is a very good possibility. The corporate side, and I try to be, again, I can get into many details, but then it's a little hotter inside. I tried to turn down the air conditioning a little bit, but I was not successful. The other possibilities, not just individual, but rather for the corporate side of it, also what Malta could offer. And I'm talking about the gambling licenses, about trust licenses, and so on and so on. But Malta, as it is, in my opinion, and I hope that I do not hurt anybody's feelings, but Malta is a very pragmatic country. And that is can be quite advantageous sometimes when somebody tries to find out where and how to structure business activities all over the world. Why I'm saying that? Malta has a tax system where the corporate tax rate is 35%. It's quite high. I think we agree that 35% is quite high. But if a dividend if that tax must be paid according to accounting and tax rules, not later than November the next year, where the financial year ends. After you pay the corporate tax of 35%, you could decide that you want to declare a dividend. And if you declare that dividend to your shareholders yourself, and you pay out that dividend, then you could ask for a refund of 6/7, approximately 85% of the corporate tax paid. So you pay, let's say you have a profit of 100,000 euros a year. You pay the 35,000 euros as the corporate income tax, and then you declare the dividends the next year. And when you declare the dividends next year and you pay out the dividends next year, you could claim back 30,000 euros from the 35,000 paid as corporate tax from the inland revenue of Malta, which is 6/7 of the 35%, which is actually, it's a simple calculation, then it's from the 35%, 5% would be your final tax obligation and 30% would be refunded. So your actual tax net liability is 5%. To the outside world, it's 35%. Malta is a highly taxed country, which is in international taxation is important that the general corporate tax level is high, which means that it's not a controlled foreign jurisdiction. Anyway, that's a technical term. Maybe not everybody understands it, but that is too complicated and doesn't belong to this conversation. So Malta is considered not as a small tax country. It's not considered as a tax haven like the Seychelles, the BVI, Cayman Island. Why? Because at least the 35% corporate tax must be paid, no exceptions. There might be some tax credits for certain investments, for employment, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, the 35% is the more normal corporate rate. Now, if somebody asks me what kind of activities to use it for, even though you might not be a resident in Malta, you could still use the Maltese corporate structures through professionals like us. But then, I hope you do not mind that I do a little bit marketing for us. So, you have a consultancy business, which means that you do not need a lot of capital to remain in the company. Because you have your office, you have your own stuff, you need IT infrastructure, but basically that is the investment you need. So, by far, a lot of your profits can be paid out as dividends, because you do not need that cash for your normal operations. If that is the case, the tax system is very advantageous because on the dividends you could reclaim back the corporate tax 30% from the 35%. But there are certain activities, let's say manufacturing activities, where it is not easy to pay out dividends because you need the majority of your profits to be reinvested again in your normal activities. And then, unfortunately, for those type of activities, because you do not declare a dividend to the shareholders, because you have to buy new machinery, because you want to open a new shop somewhere, or you want to open a new factory, you want to enlarge your activities. So you cannot take out the dividends, which means that you cannot claim the refund. Later on, when you generate enough income and you declare the dividends, you could get the refund, but then again, maybe you have to wait 5 years if it takes 5 years of inputting all the profits, no dividends whatsoever, for your activities. So there are certain activities where it's a good possibility, and there are certain activities where, unfortunately, it is not as favorable. But again, you have to ask for professional advice whether that would be a good solution or not so good solution. Really, I think taxation is a slightly boring topic. I do not think that it is as interesting as, let's say, the citizenship residency or the video which Anthony showed you. In fact, he had 3 videos, and we were thinking about showing all the 3. They are not that long, and Malta is a beautiful place, so maybe we could talk about it, but then it is a professional conference, so we decided to put up only one such presentation. Again, thank you very much for your time. It was good that I was able to explain a little bit, which is really a kind of a technical matter. But then, if you have affluent clients, high net worth individuals, huge amount of savings can be done worldwide through Malta. And The legal system is based on the UK basic principles, although it's not a totally common law jurisdiction. So the legal system is very, very safe, very, very stable. So you could count on the government promising something and keeping its word, which is important because lots of governments are offering many, many solutions. But so far it was my experience that at least for the last 15 or 20 years, where I got acquainted with how Malta operates, that was my impression that yes, this is a system which you could rely on. Let me give you a bad example, which my partner Milan told me, because Italy announced the start of a residency program. He's smiling, obviously. And I said, okay, fair enough, that's good. What are the conditions, blah, 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 because it's important if I want to make a comparison to other programs. But whatever the conditions are, Italy had such possibility 5 years ago. After 2 years, they abolished it. So you cannot count on the Italian government's promise that it would be a longer-based program or possibility. And if it would be in 2 years' time abolished, then why take the trouble of market it? Why? There is no sense. You cannot trust, I'm sorry, you are Italian also, so apologies if I say something not so positive about Italy. But at the end, there is a big difference between Italy and Malta. That is definitely true, and I think the advantage is definitely in Malta's code. Anyway, that's all for PR and marketing and so on.
They take the positive side of both.
Yes. That's a diplomatic approach, you see. Again, thank you very much for your time. I will be outside with my colleagues. I would be happy to answer any questions, email, telephone, and so on and so on. I will be at your disposal, and thank you again.